What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about a guy that we've been talking about a ton lately, and that's Pierre-Luc Dubois. A couple weeks ago I made a video, kind of speculating where he might go and what a package could look like, but now it does seem like there are a few teams, more definitively involved for Pierre-Luc Dubois, trying to, get him on an 8-year deal kind of thing, get a sign and trade done. And it's not just Montreal. It seems like Montreal would like Pierre-Luc Dubois, but it doesn't seem like they want to pay up for him. And I'm not sure that they're willing to be, paying for that asking price that he had. It seems like he's going to look for between 8.5 and, 9.25 kind of thing, somewhere in there. So it is going to be a pretty big contract. I don't know if Montreal can necessarily take that without moving some cap around, and they would have to pay extra to move that cap, obviously. But a team that has come into the race is the LA Kings, as mentioned by Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick just over a week ago. They said watch out for them, and now it does seem like the Kings are really starting to make a push forward here, as they said on their most recent episode of 32 Thoughts. For a long time, everybody was thinking, okay, he's going to Montreal, it's a foregone conclusion at this point, and, it seemed pretty promising, but now it seems like there's quite a few teams that he would actually be willing to sign with long-term, right? Not just a one-year deal. So the Kings are going to want to get, that 8-year deal done, but the only way that that's possible is if the Jets actually sign it and then trade him, similar to what Calgary did last season when they had Matthew Tkachuk. They signed him to that 8-year deal and then traded him over to the Florida Panthers. So that's a situation that I think we could be seeing, whether it's LA or another team in the coming days. But with the LA Kings, I think it's very interesting because that's a guy that could fit in right behind Kopitar, maybe even in front of him, depending on who is playing better, whatever. They'd be a really good 1A, 1B option, kind of like what Kevin Cheveldayoff envisioned for Mark Scheifele and Pierre-Luc Dubois, when he traded for Pierre-Luc Dubois. And, it worked. It did work for a while until things started to fall apart. And, it just didn't work out in the end. But, if LA, thinks they can get the best out of PLD, think that they can bring him in for 8 years, and, think that he can grow even more as a player, then I don't think they'll have a problem with a 8-year deal. I don't think that they'll have a problem with the money. I think, though, that they will be a little bit wary of the price. And I wonder what a package will look like for Pierre-Luc Dubois. I see a lot of people talking on Twitter, they, kind of starting to think about Gabe Vilardi, and that's absolutely a piece that I could see going the other way. Guy that had 23 goals last season, 41 points. He had a very good season, I think would look great in the top 6. The Jets want to compete now, which, is interesting to me. But anyway, if that is their goal, Gabe Vilardi is a very good player. I've been a fan of Gabe Vilardi for a while, but he just really hasn't had a chance to get moving, right? And I think that he would fit really nice in the top 6, as I stated before, but that's not going to get the deal done on its own. And then it gets complicated from there. Pierre's contract isn't going to fit under the cap for LA, assuming it's around the $9 million range. They're going to need to move out cap. So are you going to move out a player like Victor Arvidsson? Is that a kind of a guy that's added to the deal, or is that a separate deal, right? Do they have to move him to bring in Pierre-Luc Dubois in the offseason, right? So it gets a little bit complicated with the money, but overall it should work. But yeah, so if you imagine Gabe Vilardi, maybe a 2nd-round pick this year or a 1st-round pick next year, because LA doesn't have a 1st-round pick in this draft. They traded it for Gavrikov to Columbus. Is that something that the Jets are worried about? Do they want to get a 1st-round pick in this draft? Is that a must for them, right? It really just depends all on how the Jets feel about this stuff, about how the Kings feel about this stuff. But a package that I can see, maybe working here is Gabe Vilardi, who's, a young, established middle 6 to top 6 forward. Former 5th overall pick Alex Turcotte, who, just has not been able to stick at the NHL level right now with the Kings. I'm not really crazy about him, but he could be a reclamation project with the Jets, I think it's more of a minor move. I'd rather have a guy like Arthur Kaliev or a Luka Caputi. Anybody like that I think would be a better option than Alex Turcotte, but that's a guy that I can see the Jets trying to go for, maybe trying to revive his career, maybe play him a little bit more in the middle 6. I don't know, it could work. I'm not totally against the idea, I'm just not crazy. So Vilardi, Turcotte, maybe a 2nd, in this year's draft. I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world. If the Jets want to get a 1st-round pick next season from LA, I think that would be great. I'd probably prefer that, but it all just depends on what the Jets want to do now. They don't have that 2nd-round pick this season or next year because one was traded in the Brendan Dillon deal and the other one was traded just recently in the Nino Niederreiter deal. So, those pieces are missing. I'm sure the Jets would like to recoup some draft capital as, over the years they have made some moves and they've lost some draft capital in the process. So we'll see what happens. But I really do think that Gabe Vilardi would be a nice option for Winnipeg. I'm very high on Gabe Vilardi. I think that he could explode given more minutes. You know, Alex Turcotte, I'm not totally against. I could see a guy like maybe Arthur Kaliyev thrown in there if the Jets prefer him, but I do think that Turcotte wouldn't be a terrible option. And then a pick of some sort, whether that's a first or a second. We'll have to see what the Kings do to clear cap, whether that's with Winnipeg or not. So, you know, you can throw in a salary dump in there too if you want. Maybe they sweeten up the pick up to a first. So, yeah, we'll go with that. Gabe Vilardi, Alex Turcotte, a cap dump, and a first-round pick in 2024. We'll say that that's the deal for Pierre-Luc Dubois. I think it's fair because Winnipeg can eat the cap right now. And, you know, if it's a player like Victor Arvidsson, absolutely, he's going to fit great in the middle six for sure, probably a top six winger. But no, I think that's perfect. I think that works. I think that both teams end up happy. The Kings get their guy. They get the best player out of the trade in Pierre-Luc Dubois, who's a 60-point guy now, could be a 70, 80-point guy in LA as he grows into a player, right? He's still fairly young, 23, 24 years old, so he is going to do very well in LA, I'd imagine, going to play lots of minutes. Kopitar's not going to be there forever, so he really could be their franchise first-line centerman if he does so grow into that, as he still, you know, is 24 years old, could grow into that role absolutely. The Jets, it works out great because they get a player in Gabe Vilardi who can jump in. They take a flyer on Alex Turcotte. Maybe they take a salary dump like Victor Arvidsson who can help them now, but probably not too much more in the future, right? But if the Jets are trying to win now, I don't think that this is a terrible move for them. They pick up an extra first-round pick in the process too down the line. I think it's a fair deal for both teams. Even if the Jets have to add like a third or something into the deal, I think that it works fine. But that's just my thoughts on this. I see a lot of people, including myself on Twitter, kind of thinking about, what about Quinton Byfield, right? And Byfield would be a really nice option for Winnipeg. However, I just feel that the price tag on him is going to be so high. I don't think that LA's, necessarily given up on Quinton Byfield. I hope I'm wrong, because it'd be very, very fun if we got Quinton Byfield in a Winnipeg Jets uniform. I think that the ceiling on that guy, it could just be absolutely insane. And in Winnipeg, if they were able to, maybe play him with Adam Lowry for a bit, maybe get him into the top six, play him with a guy like Ehlers and Connor, right? Byfield can make some room for them. Just imagine what those guys can do together. So, it would be fun to think about, down the line, but it is a very boom or bust trade. And True North and the Winnipeg Jets are not a team that seem to, want to take risks and really, do what's necessary to get up to that next level, right? And that's what a lot of people hate about this organization is they don't take those risks that, a lot of teams do take that end up really working out for them, right? You can look at the Vegas Golden Knights with Mark Stone, for example, right? They gave up a lot at the time for him, and he ended up being very, very good. And you know what? Their prospect that they traded for him, that ended up being Eric Brandstrom. He was regarded as one of the best defensive prospects in the NHL at the time, and he just didn't work out. And the Vegas Golden Knights walk away with a very good player, and they walk away with the Stanley Cup in the end. But that's just, my view on the Winnipeg Jets LA Kings front. I just wanted to talk about it because, it does seem like stuff is starting to pick up steam a little bit. So unless, the Canadians want to make a big last-second offer here, I do think that we could see Pierre-Luc Dubois in an LA Kings uniform, what the package will look like. I'm not sure, but it'll be a lot of fun to monitor here. Seems like a lot of these Jets moves are going to happen pretty quickly here before the draft and, during, maybe after. So very exciting time here in Winnipeg. So I want to hear what you guys have to say down below. Love to know your thoughts on, my trade proposals. Trying to be somewhat realistic. I don't want to be like, oh, Quinton Byfield in the first for Pierre-Luc Dubois, because at the end, I just don't think that that's going to happen. But I would love it to happen, right? So we'll have to see. I don't know if Byfield's available, but very fun to think about. I'm going to leave it there. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. See you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.